Men of Munster and Connaught, you have your instructions. We trust that you will execute them. The example of the rest of your countrymen is now before you. Your own strength is unbroken. 5 months ago, you were eager to act without any other assistance. We now call upon you to shew what you then declared you only wanted the opportunity of proving, that you possess the same love of liberty and the same courage with which the rest of your countrymen are animated. We now turn to that portion of our countrymen whose prejudices we had rather overcome by a frank declaration of our intentions than conquer their persons in the field. And in making this declaration, we do not wish to dwell on events which, however they may bring tenfold odium on their authors, must still tend to keep alive and in the minds both of the instruments and victims of them a spirit of animosity which it is our wish to destroy. We will therefore enter into no detail of the atrocities and oppression which Ireland has labored under during its connection with England, but we justify our determination to separate from that country on the broad historical statement that during 600 years she has been unable to conciliate the affections of the people of Ireland, that during that time 5 rebellions were entered into to shake off the yoke, that she has been obliged to resort a system of unprecedented torture in her defense, that she has broken every tie of voluntary connection by taking even the name of independence from Ireland through the intervention of a parliament notoriously bribed and not representing the will of the people, that in her vindication of this measure she has herself given the justification of the views of the United Irishmen by declaring in the words of her ministers, quote, that Ireland never had and never could enjoy under the then circumstances the benefit of British connection, that it necessarily must happen when one country is connected with another, that the interests of the lesser will be borne down by those of the greater, that England has supported and encouraged the English colonists in their oppression towards the natives of Ireland, that Ireland had been left in a state of ignorance, rudeness, and barbarism, worse in its effects and more degrading in its nature than that in which it was found 6 centuries before. End quote. Now, to what cause are these things to be attributed? Did the cause of the Almighty keep alive a spirit of obstinacy in the minds of the Irish people for 600 years? Did the doctrines of the French Revolution produce 5 rebellions? Could the misrepresentations of ambitious and designing men drive from the mind of a whole people the recollection of defeat and raise the infant from the cradle with the same feelings with which his father sunk into the grave? Will this gross avowal, which our enemies have made of their own views, remove none of the calumny that has been thrown upon ours? Will none of the credit which has been lavished on them be transferred to the solemn declaration which we now make in the face of God and our country? We war not against property, we war against no religious sect, we war not against past opinions or prejudices, we war against English dominion. We will not, however, deny that there are some men who, not because they have supported the government of our oppressors, but because they have violated the common laws of morality, which exist alike under all or under no government, have put it beyond our power to give to them the protection of a government. We will not hazard the influence we may have with the people and the power it may give us of preventing the excesses of revolution by undertaking to place in tranquility the man who has been guilty of torture, free quarters, rape, and murder by the side of the sufferer of their relations, but in the frankness with which we warn these men of their danger. Let those who do not feel that they have passed this boundary of mediation count on their safety. We had hoped for the sake of our enemies to have taken them by surprise, and to have committed the cause of our country before they could have time to commit themselves against it. But though we have not altogether been able to succeed, we are yet rejoiced to find that they have not come forward with promptitude on the side of those who have deceived them, and we now call on them before it is yet too late, not to commit themselves further against a people they are unable to resist, and in support of a government which by their own declaration has fortified its claim to their allegiance. To that government, in whose hands, though not the issue, at least the features with which the present contest is to be marked and placed, we now turn. How is it to be decided? Is open and honorable force alone to be resorted to, or is it your intention to employ those laws which custom has placed in your hands, and to force us to employ the law of retaliation in our defense? Of the inefficacy of a system of terror in preventing the people of Ireland from coming forward to assert their freedom, you have already had experience. Of the effect which such a system will have on our minds, in case of success, we have already forewarned you. We now address to you another consideration. If in the question which is now to receive a solemn and, we trust, final decision, if we have been deceived, reflection would point out that conduct should be resorted to, which was the best calculated to produce conviction on our minds. What would that conduct be? It would be to shew to us that the difference of strength between the two countries is such as to render it unnecessary for you to bring out all your force, to shew to us that you have something in reserve wherewith to crush hereafter not only a great exertion on the part of the people, but a greater exertion rendered still greater by foreign assistance. It would be to shew to us that what we have vainly supported to be prosperity growing beyond your grasp, it is only a partial exuberance requiring but the pressure of your hand to reduce it into form. But for your own sake, do not resort to a system which, while it increased the acrimony of our minds, would leave us under the melancholy delusion that we had been forced to yield, not to the second and temperate exertions of superior strength, but to the frantic struggles of weakness concealing itself under desperation. Consider also that the distinction of rebel and enemy is of a very fluctuating nature, that during the course of our own experience you have already been obliged to lay it aside, that should you be forced to abandon it towards Ireland, you cannot hope to do so as tranquilly as you have done towards America, for in the exasperated state to which you have raised the minds of the Irish people, a people whom you profess to have left in a state of barbarism and ignorance, with what confidence can you say to that people, quote, while the advantage of cruelty lay upon our side, we slaughtered you without mercy, but the measure of our own blood is beginning to preponderate. It is no longer our interest that this bloody system should continue. Shew us then that forbearance which we never taught you by precept or example. Lay aside your resentments, give quarter to us, and let us mutually forget that we never gave quarter to you. End quote. Cease then, we entreat you, uselessly to violate humanity by resorting to a system inefficacious as an instrument of terror, inefficacious as a model of defense, inefficacious as a mode of conviction, ruinous to the future relations of the two countries in case of our success, and destructive of those instruments of defense which you will then find it doubly necessary to have preserved unimpaired. But if your determination be otherwise, hear ours. We will not imitate you in cruelty. We will put no man to death in cold blood. The prisoners which first fall into our hands shall be treated with the respect due to the unfortunate. But if the life of a single Irish soldier is taken after the battle is over, the orders thenceforth is to be issued to the Irish army are neither to give or take quarter. Countrymen, if a cruel necessity forces us to retaliate, we will bury our resentments in the field of battle. If we are to fall, we will fall where we fight for our country. Fully impressed with this determination of the necessity of adhering to which past experience has but too fatally convinced us, fully impressed with the justice of our cause, which we now put to issue, we make our last and solemn appeal to the sword and to heaven, and as the cause of Ireland deserves to prosper, may God give it victory.